Okay, our topic of today is competition analysis and shareholders theory. That's our topic of the day. Is a topic that is not difficult that we can easily achieve in less than 2 hours, so that we can be able to manage the situation, dynamism, and difficulty we are facing in the network service provider. Okay, to start with, competition analysis and stakeholders theory. We are starting with the little preambles about industry analysis, some basic concepts about industry before we move to competition analysis that was being formulated by Michael Porter. So the first thing to know, just like I told you last weekend, was that we have to know the meaning of industry. That does not mean that in the exam condition they'll be asking you to define industry or define industry segment. I doubt that. The examiner will not ask you that. That would be too primitive to ask. But that we have to just have the knowledge of background of this. That industry implies a market where we have two or more suppliers that produce similar products. And these suppliers that produce similar products, they operate in that industry for them to sell their products to the same target customers, make profit, and see to how they can achieve quick return on investment and profitability. So in any industry, we always have intense competition. And this competition, oh God Almighty, in any industry, we always have intense competition. As a result of that, all companies are striving to ensure that they retain their customers, attract new customers, and have a fair share of the market. So industry means the coming together of two or more suppliers or companies, and you can even use firms that produce similar products or slightly differentiated products. They operate in the same market. For instance, we have the manufacturing industry, the construction industry, the insurance industry. That's what we call industry. And when we are talking of the industry segment, the segment just means a unit that two, three, four, five units can come together to make up an industry. A very typical example is this the tertiary institution that we pass through, be it polytechnic or university. We have so many units that we call department, faculty, whatever. So they come together to make one department. So the same thing occurs to the industry segment. The industry segment means the identifiable smaller part of the industry that form the entire industry. It might be in the transportation industry where we have so many segments, like a segment for tire, units where they are producing tire, the brake of the windscreen, the on, many subunit or segment like that that form the bulk of industry. When you look at the example cited there, we discovered that we said in the industry we have something like insurance industry. You know, in the insurance industry generally, we have motor insurance, we have fire insurance, we have life insurance, assurance policy, we have marine insurance, we have pension insurance. That's what we mean by the industry segment. The reason why we are saying this is that companies must ensure that they identify all these segments for them to be able to choose the industry where they want to operate, know the goods and services that will meet the needs and want of such customers. And at the same time, they can be able to tailor their tailor their products and their strategy to the target customers in the industry. So knowing the industry and the segment will give you opportunity to know who are the customers. So you'll be able to identify their strengths, dynamism of the marketing environment, and the government policy regulating the industry. So having looked at that, we look at the generic types of industry. What are the various types of industry? So among the various types of industry that we have is we have fragmented industry. When we say fragmented industry, that word segment or the word market segmentation applies here, because the fragmented industry, they are smaller industry that make up the total market or industry. We have something like the organizer, dry cleaning services, hairdressing services, small and medium scale enterprises. So all these things are what we call fragmented industry, smaller industry that make a larger portion of the total market. But when it comes to emerging industry, we can say it's there. The emerging industry, the word emerging, they are upcoming industry that is growing. They are experiencing spontaneous and increasing growth. They are not stagnant. From birth, from the year of commencement of the business, we are seeing remarkable improvement in the size of the company, in the number of their customers, their sales volume, expansion. That expansion refers to growth. That is what we call emerging industry. So, and they see our future potential for growth and profitability. But in mature industry, the mature industry there, they are industry where the company, the suppliers operating there, their product is in the growth stage or maturity stage. And in this industry that we say mature industry, the level of competition in that industry is highly intense. There is heady competition. So that's the more reason why in a mature industry, the industry or the market experience slow growth. For any product to have a remarkable performance here, such a product should be regarded as a star product or cash cow product. Because in a mature industry, that industry is always saturated with competitors. Oh, apart from the mature industry, we have declining industry. The word decline. Another word that we can use to replace decline means decrease, falling, reducing, decelerating. A declining industry is an industry that the industry is experiencing retrogressing performance. The performance of that industry and all the participants is reducing. The industry is becoming not attractive again. So all the major operators in that market that is selling their product, some are leaving. Those that are not leaving, they are experiencing harsh business environment in that their sales and profitability is reducing. They're even struggling to break even, not to talk of having high return on investment. A good example of declining industry in Nigeria is something like a textile industry, because this industry is fading up. All the swanning industry and what have you, where are they today? Our telecommunication industry, apart from the foreign operator multinational companies, it was a declined industry. Where is the Nigerian Water Corporation? That industry has declined. The activities there has been eroded. So that's what we call declining industry. And a global industry is an industry that operates on the international level. So in a global industry, we have Nigerian participants operating at that international level. We have so many companies that come across the globe to operate in a global industry too. Typical example, we have international banking. All these banking that operate offshore, that's what we call a global industry. So having looked at that, another concept that is important to know is convergence. The word converge means coming together. So convergence means the coming together of two or more industry from different segments. And it can even be from the same segment to form one larger industry. So anytime two or more industry come together, then we call it a convergence industry. It can be, for instance, in the transportation industry and aviation industry. When they come together, as we say, they converge together. And this convergence might be as a result of demand, pressure from demand, or it can be as a result of the pressure from supply. So when the pressure is from the demand of the customers, to meet up with the demands of the customers. Maybe the customers are asking for something, a product that is not in existence, latent demand, or they are demanding for increase in output. We are finding it difficult to meet the demands of the customers. or they are demanding for innovative products that one industry cannot achieve, that can be convergence. And that one means the convergence come as a result of pressure from the demand from customers. And at the same time, we can have a supply-led convergence. That would be as a result of supply. The forces of supply bring about that. There may be an identified space in the market that the industry cannot cater for. Like for instance, in the charter flight, I was in the physical class yesterday when we are looking at Air Spirit Limited. That in that case scenario that we solved in class yesterday, we discovered that in the charter flight, in that case scenario, it was only just one supplier, one company that is there. The company did not intend to create uh, monopoly in any way, but because the setup cost is too high, this discourage a lot of potential suitors and investors to go there, coupled with a lot of risks. So when one company is supplying or catering for the needs of the entire nation, there is a problem. So this one might necessitate the need for more entrepreneurial, wedding individual to diversify into that sector due to the need to meet up with the demand of the teeming population. So having looked at all these preambles, now it permits me to move to Porter 5 forces model. The Porter 5 forces model is, is a popular and useful framework. This model is used to analyze the level of competition in an industry or market. The Porter 5 forces model is used to identify the attractiveness of an industry for a company to be able to make a strategic decision on whether they should invest in that industry or not to participate in the industry. The Porter 5 forces model too give opportunity for companies to be able to do what we call continuous environmental scanning. Give them opportunity to do continuous environmental scanning. Because with the continuous environmental scanning now, it will be easier for the company to be able to know what are the activities in the industry, who are the existing competitors, who are the new competitors coming in. How can we have edge over other competitors that are in the market? So all these things are what we use Porter 5 forces model for. In the exam condition, there are two ways to this. The Porter 5 forces model can be set directly, and the examiner will ask you to discuss comprehensively on your understanding of Porter 5 forces model. Then once you have this kind of question, you give an overview of what Porter 5 forces model is all about, and all the 5 forces that are given by the scholar,
Scholar,
we
we
have
have
to
to
that you explain it. Is that understood? So we have to explain all the 5 forces model. In another fashion, ICAN can give you a case scenario. Once that case scenario has been given, so what you are expected to do is to read that passage. Once you read that passage, then you now apply the understanding of this 5 forces model to solve the question that will be required to solve. That means this time around, you're not just discussing on the theory, free flow writing on the 5 forces model. You have to apply it to the case. In what way has the company used the 5 forces model? Is there any of this model that relates to the case study? So that's the way we use 5 forces model. So the 5 forces model that I've told you that we use to analyze the degree of competition in any industry comprises of the following 5 forces. So what are the 5 forces? We have 1, you can see below, we have threats from new entrants. 2, availability of substitute products. 3, the bargaining power of suppliers. 4, the bargaining power of buyers. 5, rivalry among major competitors. This is what the syllabus require as 5 forces model. Anytime they say we should analyze the degree of competition using 5 forces model, these are the 5 things that we are going to discuss on. 1, threat from new entrants. 2, availability of substitute products. 3, bargaining power of suppliers. 4, bargaining powers of buyers. And 5, rivalry among major competitors. Hope it is understood. I need response, please, before proceeding. Hello?
Yes, sir, it's clear, sir.
Okay, thank you. If it is clear, I want to clarify something here. That was the reason why I want your response. You see, all these 5 forces, it is not compulsory you state them the way they are in ascending order or what have you. Anyone that is compulsory that you have to follow is rigidly like that, I will inform you. Meaning that this one, you can put it any way it occurs to you. If you like, you can discuss on the rivalry first. 2, you can discuss on availability of substitute product first. So all you guys have to do is that you must touch these 5 forces model. And again, let me help you here. In the exam proper, if you are being given a case scenario, ICAN might decide not to put all these 5 forces in the case. It might be 2 or 3 or 4 out of 5 that affected the complaint here. So anyone that does not concern the case, don't discuss about it. You can just say this does not applicable to the case study. Okay, so let's look at the 5 forces model one by one. The threat from new entrants, availability of substitute products, bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of buyers, and rivalry among major competitors. So you can see the diagrammatic representation of the 5 forces model. Uh, if you want to draw the diagram, fine. If you don't draw the diagram, you cannot be penalized. There are some diagrams that are compulsory, which I will tell you that once you get to this junction, anytime it comes out in exam, you must ensure you draw the diagram. And once you understood what we are doing this morning, you can draw the diagram. It's a very simple diagram. And some of the examples that we put, you can put it underneath. And that's what you earn your 2 marks or thereafter for this. So let's look at the first one, the threat from new entrants. What do you mean by threat from new entrants? The first thing that I would like you to know to simplify this is that who are those people we call new entrants? The new entrants refers to potential competitors. The potential competitors. Some might just recently emerged, but the potential competitors that are striving, they are making spirited efforts to enter the existing market. That existing market might be an emerging market or mature market. Why are they striving? How come they are not looking at other industry? What is their interest in that market? This new entrant that we call potential rivals, competitors, they are striving to enter that market to sell their product, all because that market is attractive. Because that market, the sales performance of all the products in the market is high. And all the companies that are there, they are making huge profit. So there is a high return on investment. Nobody regrets participating in that market. And that market too, there's not much government interference. As a result of that, they are choosing that market as an industry where they want to operate. This new entrant that we are discussing about, Michael Porter informs us that we should not allow the new entrants to enter the market. Despite the fact that we are saying that competition is good, we have to encourage competition for economic variability and the rest. He's saying that the competitors, the new entrants that are coming, they will add more to the competitive pressure in the market. So Porter said the new entrants and the existing competitors, they are poisonous to our business. So as a result of that, we have to ensure that we place a high entry barrier to either prevent them or limit the numbers of new entrants that will emerge in the market. So the high entry barriers, we can form a sort of association. We can make the the cost of operating in the industry to be high. So this one will discourage a lot of potential suitors that we call new entrants that will come to the market. Why is it so particular about this new entrant? His main concern is that anytime the new entrants emerge in the industry, they cause market disequilibrium. They will reduce the sales performance of our products. They will reduce our brand dominance. Anytime the new entrant comes in, they will reduce our financial gains and market share. Anytime they come, they snatch our customers. That's what we call customer switching. The customers will switch from our product to their own, particularly when they are selling the same price at which we are selling. So Porter said the new entrants are poisonous to our business. So when you look at this discussion, apart from what Porter have said, that when you place a high entry barrier, it will discourage them from coming. So looking at the second paragraph, you see that I have is there that the cost and practical difficulty of entering the market are caused barrier to entry. So now let's look at some barriers to entry. Barriers to entry means that those factors that can either encourage the new entrant to come or not to come, or those factors that serve as a stumbling block for them not to launch their product now. If those factors are favorable, the new entrant will try all they could, no matter the restriction or the high barrier we place to launch their product. But if those barriers are not favorable now, they have to wait till the time it is favorable. So what are the determinants of new entrants emergence? The new entrants emergence barriers that we are talking about are these. Let's say because of time. The major entry barriers. The major entry barriers that determine the emergence of new entrants. You might be required of this in exam. You might be required to discuss on this, or ICAN might just take one element or two out of this and add this to the compression in the case scenario. So some of the major determinants of the new entrants are this. One, economic of scale. By economic of scale means that the new company that is coming, if they don't have opportunity to produce in larger quantity, if they don't have the opportunity to reduce their operational expenses and spread the cost of fixed costs, then they might be discouraged to come. Meaning that if they cannot engage in production of large quantities of the product, if the number of potential customers that is likely to buy their product are small, if the number of markets they are likely to sell to are small, if they cannot achieve a reduction in the cost of production, then automatically the market is not favorable. The new entrants will not launch their products. They have to wait for appropriate time. Just like the economic situation Nigeria find herself now, the operating cost is high. There is hyperinflation or galloping inflation. Even the consumer you want to sell to, including you and I, we don't have that purchasing power to buy anything now. Because more or less from hand to mouth, nothing is left to try a new product and the rest. So economic of scale is one of the major determinants. Two, capital investment requirement. If the cost of investment in that industry is high, it will serve as a major barrier, hindrance to their emergence. So, like for instance, in the case scenario I said we treated in class yesterday, we are told that majority of the new entrants are unable to come to charter flight because of huge initial capital outlay requirements. So, if the cost of operating in the industry is outrageous and they don't have that money, coupled with attached risks, then the new entrant will not emerge. But if it is favorable, the cost is low and the level of risk is low too, they will decide to launch their product. Access to distribution channel. If the new entrants have access to some of the existing distributors, irrespective of their numbers, if the distributors are willing to assist them to sell their product, despite the fact that it's a newly born baby. Because a newly born product is a product that is just recently introduced. It's an infant product or brand. So some distributors might be showing apathy, reluctance to sell the product in order to limit their cost of finance. Some might be reluctant to sell it or decide not to in competing brand. They must not sell another brand of product, not be able to sell the product. When they are faced with short situation that major distributors operating in the distribution challenge are not willing to sell their products, then there is high risk of barrier of entry. They will not launch their products. Time to become established. I decided to add this because there are some industry like that it takes the grace of God for your for your brand of product to become known in the market, no matter the level of aggressive competition or aggressive advertising that you did. A good example is in the fashion industry that I put as example there. It takes a lot of time for your brand to be established. Even in the automobile industry, you can see Tesla here and there, Toyota Corolla, Nissan, all those brands that we've known in the past. It's very difficult for a new brand to become so established like that. Unless God just assist the company that they have that brand as a strategic asset. So time of establishment is it takes a lot of time. But in some cases too, you might be fortunate if the company launch at the appropriate time and they use a good strategy that is quite different from price. The company might be fortunate. Let me use the word fortunate that the brand will become established within a limited time. A good example that you and I know is some a couple of years back. Nobody gave it to them. Nigerian company launched their products in the carbonated industry. That is Biggie Cola. And before you know it, the product was launched and it has come to stay. It's moving now to the growth stage, though their market share might be a little bit extremely low as compared to that of Pepsi, Coke, and some other established brand. But what we need there is that it was launched and the consumer accept it and it has come to stay. There are some products like that that they will launch and the brand will not be established. In the next 10, 20 years, it might not be established. So time to become established is another entry barrier that give the new entrants concern. Haven't study the business environment. Next to that is switching costs. I mentioned this once. The switching cost means the price at which the new entrant that is coming to launch their new product want to sell. That price must not be too high than all the existing products in the market. Because if the price is too high and that product is not a differentiated product, then automatically the potential customers will be reluctant to buy the product. But if we are selling the same price at which other brands in the market are selling and our product is quality, then we are going to see some potential buyers that will make what we call trial purchase. For instance, to simplify the meaning of this, we all know Pepsi and Coke, because of the inflation now, they begin to sell 400, 450. At most, you see it's 500. Unless you go to hotel, eatery, and what have you, that you see it's more than that. So we assume it's 500 naira. But if another company is coming now, a new entrant, and they want to sell their own soft drink, 700 naira, then the switching cost is high. A potential buyer might feel, let me just buy the Coke and Pepsi I'm used to, 500, use the remaining 200 to buy Gala. But when the switching cost is low, then automatically they can launch their product because there is so many large number of customers that will make a trial purchase and buy their products. The government regulation, if the government policy is favorable, then the new entrants, they may find it deemed fit for them to launch their product. But if the government policy is unfavorable and the environmental condition is harsh, Just like the present condition in Nigeria, government increase the tariff of electricity, they increase tax, they increase the interest rate, so many things has increased. So this is not the time, proper time for a company to launch their product. So existence of monopoly, we all knew that in any monopoly market, it is the monopoly that dictates the price, the quantity of goods and what have you to sell. It's not a good market that anybody should be attracted to go. Even you and I can't go there in a monopoly situation. And that's what the likes of Dangote, Bua, and what have you are enjoying in Nigeria. So market cartel too, if there is a price fixing, some all these existing suppliers association, it's always frustrating newcomers that comes to the market. So these are some of the factors that encourage or discourage the emergence of the new entrants. So having looked at that, let's quickly look at the second uh, force. We have looked at the first model. The second model is stress from substitute product. A substitute product have the same adverse negative effect like a new entrance coming in, because the availability of substitute products will give the customers room for choice. And you can see here where I put the cursor here that the customers can switch fairly easily to buying alternative products that we call substitute products. Anytime there's a substitute product in the market, the consumers have room for choice. They can leave product A to go and try product B, and in so doing, if that product B is sold at a lower price and it meets their expectation in terms of quality and satisfaction, they might not come back to product A again. So we have so many substitute products here and there that, particularly now that we're in a digital age, so substitute products brings about loss of customers, loss of sales, reduction in market share, reduction in brand popularity, and many more. Those are the effects of substitute products. And I've told you the emergence of Biggie Cola in the industry, American Cola, RC Cola, they are substitute products to Pepsi and Coke. So the third one is bargaining power of suppliers. What I mean by bargaining power of suppliers is that a situation that occur whereby the supplier has a dominant decision on the terms and condition of contract. Is it the supplier that determine the quality of the product they want to sell, the price as you they want to sell, the quantity they want to sell, the specification of the materials, and other terms and conditions, including price. So anytime we have the bargaining power of suppliers, the bargaining power of suppliers always favor complaints. It always favor complaints that produce quality products. The bargaining power of suppliers always favor complaints that produce innovative products, and it might give them opportunity to charge a premium price that we call higher price, which customers do not have choice. Because in the bargaining power of suppliers, any suppliers that produce innovative and differentiated products, it might not even be in the area of innovative. We all knew that they produce quality products. What might be the strength of the company is that in the area of distribution, they have this timely distribution, something like DHL. Customers relationship management might give them edge over all other suppliers and buyers. As a result of that, so many customers will patronize them. You can see that yellow ink there, pencil. I put it there for you. That supplier gain high bargaining power when they produce necessity products, when they produce innovative and unique products, and when they produce what? Differentiated products, or occupy the market leadership position. That is remarkable. Because when they're in the market leadership position, they are the number one leading company. Because in the competitive industry, we have four competitive market position. We have market leader position, market challenger position, market followers position, and market niche position. One, two, three, four. The market leader position is occupied by, for instance, in the telecommunication industry now, MTN. Market challengers is occupied by Airtel. Market followers is occupied by Globalcom. While market niche is occupied by Nine Mobile. So any company that fall into that bracket, market leadership position, they produce differential product, no customers will dictate for them. And they have that leading position in the competitive industry. Opposite that, number four, power of buyer. And if you like, I can call the bargaining power of customers. This was the reverse of the bargaining power of suppliers. So it happens, but we have to live with it. We have to ensure that anytime the customers have high bargaining power, that situation must be effectively managed to ensure that we have a win-win situation. Because the customers are, they will like to dictate the terms and conditions of contracts, as in the quality they want, the price at which they can buy. And you should realize that the customers can gain high bargaining power when uh, they have a low switching cost. They can easily leave our product and buy another one because they are selling it the same price. Customers can have high bargaining power apart from the low switching cost when the product they are buying is not a differentiated product. Our product quality is the same with other competitors. They are used in the same way and they offer the same benefit. So that one will give them opportunity to dictate the terms and conditions of contract. And when you look at this, that bullet points here, the bullet points underneath, they indicate the various conditions under which the buyers, customers can have high bargaining power. The first of it is this: the volume of their purchase. We have some customers that order for 10 trailers of Dangote cement, some order for 10 trailers of uh, Nestle Foods products. In the Guinness uh, industry, you see a lot of customers that purchase a product worth 500 million or more than that. They celebrate all these customers yearly. Some they give them cars, some they give them opportunity to be part of the shareholders, and many more. So their volume of purchase give them high bargaining power. And if the product is not differentiated, it give them high bargaining power. The low switching costs give them high bargaining power too. So these are some of the things that can make our customers to be more powerful than us. But that notwithstanding, we have to ensure that we manage the situation through win-win bargaining power. And at times we can be at their mercy to ensure that we retain such powerful customers, not to lose them to our competitors. So the last force among the five forces is competitive rivalry. Michael Porter said, rivalry among major competitors is good. Let the competitors compete. But that notwithstanding, we must keep an eye on our new entrants. We must not make the industry to be too loose that anybody can just come into that industry and sell. There must be restriction, barriers to entry. But generally, he said competitive rivalry is good. All because anytime companies are competing with each other due to the size and strength of the market and attractiveness of the market, he said it is very beneficial in so many ways. The only disadvantages of competition is that it will make the sales growth in the market to reduce, and probably our market share and profitability will reduce. But in overall, when you look at what these scholars have said, and from our own little experience about what we call level of competition, competition is healthy. It is good for economic viability. Competition is good for job creation. Competition will make companies to be more innovative, to spend more on research and development. Competition, too, will make companies to be more proactive, to engage in market expansion, invest in increasing portfolio. So competition will make companies to value their customers. They will build customer relationship management, that's CRM, and at the same time improve the quality of their product. Increasing competition generates revenue to the government. So that's the more reason why we say competition is very good and healthy for the nation. So this is just an illustration of the five forces model. The five forces model again is threat of new entrants, the availability of substitute products, the bargaining power of suppliers, bargaining power of buyers, and rivalry among major competitors. Having looked at that, the next thing that we look at is shareholders theory. The shareholders as the stakeholders theory. Though I mentioned shareholder is stakeholders theory. As time goes on in our syllabus, we are still going to discuss on shareholders under governance. So, what are those people that we call stakeholders? Or do you have any question on the competition analysis, five forces model before we proceed? Let me quickly ask, because the clarity your understanding is key. You have paid for this service to be rendered, and your success is paramount to us as a equity professional. Hello? Is there any question, please? I should proceed.
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's proceed. Thank you. Stakeholders. Who are those people that we call stakeholders? Stakeholders are individual or group of individuals that have a stake. That stake that we call STAKE means interest. So if that is interest, then you should know that in your definition of stakeholders, just inform the examiner that the stakeholders are individuals or group of individuals that have interests in the organization. And if you use the word stake, you are okay. So they try to monitor the activities of the organization, their performance, their sources, their strategy is key, even the policy of the company. And it is not all stakeholders that are shareholders of the company, but all shareholders are stakeholders of the company. So in summary, those individual or group of individuals that have interest in what the company is doing and their sources and performance is paramount. Those are the people that we call stakeholders. So one important thing that you should know here is that the company policy, performance, sources, strategy, and operational activities affect the stakeholders, all because they have interest in the company. And at the same time, the stakeholders too and their expectations can influence the company policy, decision making, and strategy. Can you say now? The company policy can affect the stakeholder, while the stakeholders too can influence the company policy, strategy, and performance. So without grouping them, so when you look at the stakeholders, generally, the stakeholders comprises of one, the ordinary shareholders, two, the controlling shareholders, these are the people that have the major share, the investment community, the lenders. The lenders can be a microfinance, financial institutions, anchor borrowers, the suppliers that we equally call vendors. They are stakeholders to the company. The customers, the directors, other senior executive, the managers and employees, and the government. All the state, local government, and federal government, they are external stakeholders to the company, including the pressure group. So the pressure group and the media houses, local community, the general public form the group of stakeholders. And later on, as our lecture proceeds this afternoon, you are going to see the classification of stakeholders. All these general stakeholders that we listed now, we can categorize them under different types of stakeholders. So what are the expectations of stakeholders? The expectations of stakeholders varies. They are not the same. Sorry, I have to pause because of that aeroplane. Okay, the expectation of stakeholders are not the same. There are different forms of stakeholders' expectations, starting from the top management level up to the lower level management level. In the stakeholders' expectations, we have the senior managers of the companies. They have expectations of uh, robust salary. They have expectations of improved working condition, probably scholarship for them and their family. They have expectations to have a reward or incentives being attached to their performance and their salary. And to the lower staff level that form the bulk of the stakeholders in the company, those are the employees. They are valuable assets of the companies too. And their expectations are many: motivation, increase in salary, access to leave with payment, training and manpower development, recognition of their trade union, uh, avoidance of job discrimination. They need pay security, motivation is there. So the expectations are many. When you look at the shareholders' expectations are many because the shareholders are the owner of the company. They are the one that finance and manage the company. So the shareholders' expectations, they have the right. That voting right is there. Dividends as at when due, return on investment. These are some of the expectations. Price growth dividends, return on investment, innovation is there. And they love to be consulted by the board on major issues that concern the company. Because being appointed the CEO or the director of the company does not make you the owner of the company. And these are the things that is causing against the problem. Lack of consultation. You have to ensure that you keep them abreast of all decisions. This one will even reduce their agency cost. So the expectation of the shareholders are many, and you can see the expectation of directors that I mentioned to you: remuneration, status, bonus, incentive, and minimum. Senior managers too, we have their expectations. We see all these expectations there. I've stated it in a tabular form, and at the same time, I ensure that all these things that we state in tabular form, I equally break them down for proper understanding. And when you look at this expectation of other stakeholders group, like for instance, I put employees expect to receive fair pay for the work that they do. That's what I mentioned as pay security. They want a salary that will commensurate with their effort, and this salary has to be paid as at when due. They need job security to prevent indiscriminate loss of their job and possible career progress, fair promotion, unbiased performance appraisal. They must also expect good working conditions. That's what we mean by expectation of stakeholders. And part of the expectation of the employees as a trade order that I mentioned earlier is this: they want recognition of trade union. They want their trade union to be recognized by the management because they are the one that will represent them and protect their interests. Also, customers have expectations. Our customers are buying from us, and all their expectations have to be met. Because some of the expectations of the customers are availability of product as at when they have paid. They want prompt delivery of products. The customers want a quality product. They want your company to produce a wholesome product and service delivery. They don't want anything like breach of contracts. Our suppliers too, they want transparency, lack of violation of contractual agreements. Supplier want it. They want fruitful and profitable collaboration. Collaboration, that's what supplier wants. Anytime they are doing competitive bidding, The suppliers want transparency in the bidding exercise so that we'll be able to know the modalities that you use to award a contract. So the general public too and the government, they have expectations because the general public wants a company that will engage in what we call fair competition, a company that will engage in social responsibility, a company that will engage in environmental protection, you can see here, to reduce pollution, a company that pays their tax, a company that creates job opportunity. These are the kind of company that people associate with. So having looked at the expectations of the stakeholders, let's look at the classification of stakeholders. By that classification of stakeholders, it is not compulsory in exam to use the word classification. The word types, forms can be used. So in the classification of stakeholders, stakeholders can be classified into so many categories. And all these classes of stakeholders, when you read them very well, you will discover that some of them, they have the same meaning. For instance, we have the internal stakeholders. What are those people that we call internal stakeholders? The internal stakeholders they are the categories of stakeholders that have cordial and very closer relationship with the company. The internal stakeholders, they play active role in day-to-day operational processing and management of the company. They are valuable assets to the company, and as a result of that, they are much affected by the company policy, decision, and strategy. Being an internal stakeholders, they too they can influence the company decision. Is that understood? Example of internal stakeholders are the shareholders, the employees of the company, and other senior management of the company. Those are the people that we call the internal stakeholders. So apart from the internal stakeholders that we have mentioned, what are those people we call external stakeholders? The external stakeholders are individual or group of stakeholders that have a stake in the activities of the company and their performance. They are not actively involved in the management and governance of the company, but yet they make vital and immense contribution and have greater interest in the company. Example of the external stakeholders are the lenders, the suppliers, the customers, and the government, including the host community, the media houses, the pressure group. They are good example of what we call external stakeholders. So these external stakeholders, they are less affected, but they can mount some pressure on the company and they monitor the activities of the company. Typical example of the external stakeholders are the government. The government make laws and regulations, and they don't want violation of all these laws. They want companies to abide and comply strictly with all these laws and regulations, e.g., tax law. At the same time, one of the external stakeholders are our host community. The host community wants companies that are socially responsible, companies that come to their plight, companies that create jobs, companies that make social footprints in the area of contribution to the general economic development and society development. Other types of stakeholders that we have are the following: narrow stakeholders and wide stakeholders. My learned colleagues, the explanation of these two is synonymous with the one we have done. I won't deceive you. Other types of stakeholders that we are going to discuss now, you will discover that the narrow stakeholders more or less the same thing as internal stakeholders, while the wide stakeholders is similar to external stakeholders in terms of explanation and example. So when you look at voluntary stakeholders, primary and secondary stakeholders, known and unknown stakeholders, legitimate and illegitimate stakeholders, all of them they have uh, the same explanation. Okay, what do you mean by narrow and wide stakeholders? Maybe this one is more or less a figurative speech. According to Evans and Freeman, this scholar make a distinction, differences between narrow and wide stakeholders. Narrow stakeholders. The narrow stakeholders are the categories of stakeholders that are much affected by the company policy, strategy, decision, operational activities, and performance. Typical example is employees. Can you see it's the same thing like the internal stakeholders? That is the logic there. Narrow. The word narrow there just tell us the level of closeness with that company. They are narrow because they have a very close and cordial relationship with the company. They partake in the operational activities and management of the company. They make spirited effort towards achieving the company pre-stated objectives. And as a result of that, the company policy affect them and they too can influence the company policy. So example include shareholders, directors, other management staff, employees, and many more. So the company have much responsibility and relationship with narrow stakeholders than wide stakeholders. In comparison, let's look at wide stakeholders. A wide stakeholders are a group of stakeholders that are less dependent and affected by the company policy. They are less dependent and affected by the company policy. So the wide stakeholders include the customers, the government, and the host community. You can see all these examples too fall under what we call the external stakeholders. Wide. They have a very wide relationship with the company. They are not as close as their narrow stakeholders. So primary stakeholders and secondary stakeholders. This is another types of stakeholders. So when you look at the primary stakeholders, there are group of stakeholders that are essential for the achievement of the company objective and sustainable growth. Those are the people we call primary stakeholders. And if you use the definition we have been using from the internal and narrow for primary stakeholders, an example, you are right. You need not stress yourself. The same answer we give to narrow and internal stakeholder is the same answer for primary stakeholders. Why the solution for external stakeholder and wide stakeholder is the same answer for secondary stakeholder. So, in a nutshell, a primary stakeholders group, they are the kind of stakeholders that are closer to the company. They make major contribution to achievements of the company growth and operational activities. So they are much affected by the company policy. They can influence the company policy too. Example are customers, suppliers, employees, and shareholders. So opposite the primary stakeholders is secondary stakeholders. The secondary stakeholders are not directly relying on the company for its survival. So they are less affected by the company policy and they too, they have a minimal influence on the company policy, decision, and performance. Examples are the government, the public, the supplier. The supplier can decide not to supply us and be supplying our competitors. They are best of passage. So when it comes to active and passive stakeholders, by their name we shall know them. By their name, you can see active and passive. Active is the same thing as active is the same thing as primary stakeholders and internal stakeholders or narrow stakeholders. Because why do we call them active? We call them active because they seek to get involved in the company what? Activities and decisions. Meaning that they are active stakeholders because they are actively involved in operational processes and decision of the company. So in so doing, their relationship is narrow, cordial, closer to the company. They are affected by the company policy and decision, and at the same time, they can influence the company decision too. Is that understood? So some of the examples that should come to your mind about active stakeholders are the government, the employees, the shareholders, the CEOs, the investors. While the passive stakeholders, they are not involved in the company decision making, they have a lesser influence on the company, and they are not much affected by the company decision. So voluntary stakeholders and involuntary stakeholders. My erudite scholar, you discover that the meaning of voluntary stakeholders is the same thing as internal and primary stakeholders. Because the voluntary stakeholders are the categories of stakeholders that become a stakeholders of the company voluntarily. They are not under duress or undue influence. It is not at gunpoint that they join the company. They have vested interest in our application for recruitment. They apply, they are shortlisted, they came for interview, they are successful. After the interview, we recruit them, they are placed on job, they do induction training for them, they are being paid good salary. Voluntarily, they join the company as a stakeholder. If they want to leave too, voluntarily they can leave. Some with notice and without notice, e.g., employees. That's what we call voluntary stakeholder. But involuntary stakeholders, they choose not to have any relationship with the company. Those are the people that we call involuntary stakeholders. So nobody will force them to join the company, and they can leave anytime. They might not have any interest in the company. But there are some involuntary stakeholders that they don't have choice than to join us, like the host community. By that host community means the community where our company branch or head office is. Automatically they are our stakeholders because they are the one that is hosting the company. So those are the people that we say involuntarily they are stakeholders of the company. Just like government. Government is involuntary stakeholders because they are the one regulating, they are the one collecting tax. Legitimate stakeholders, number 5, and illegitimate stakeholders. The solution here is too. I must be transparent and open to you so that to make your exam to be easier. The answer to internal stakeholders, primary stakeholders, and some others that we have mentioned, active stakeholders, involuntary stakeholder, that answer can serve as solution for legitimate stakeholders. Why? Because look at the solution. The legitimate stakeholders are those with a right to make a claim on the company. So, meaning that the legitimate stakeholders, they can make legal demands, or because they have contributions to the company, or because they are voluntary stakeholders that are employed by the company. So, as a result of that, they can demand for increase, they can demand for improvement in working condition, they can sue the company, and the company can sue them. But illegitimate stakeholders, They are the categories of stakeholders that do not have any legitimate rights. They cannot make any command or demand from the complaint. These are the people that we call the illegitimate stakeholders. If at all, if they want to bear the complaint to make social responsibility, so the tone they will use will be quite different. It shouldn't be like their staff that we call legitimate staff, are legitimate stakeholders. So illegitimate stakeholders are those categories of stakeholders that do not have legitimate rights. A good example is unknown stakeholders to the complaint. They don't have the rights or claims in any way against the complaint. Is that understood? Okay. Once that is understood, let's now look at known and unknown stakeholders. The known stakeholders, known and unknown stakeholders. The known stakeholders are the categories of stakeholders that the complaint known about their existence. They have relationship with the complaint. They are making contribution. It can even be their customers or suppliers, lenders, dignitaries, government, their employees, their shareholders, their board of directors. Those are the known stakeholders. But unknown stakeholders, we don't know of their existence. They just have vested interest in our complaint. A good example is all these Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans. They are not known in England. And at times they will fight, they will blow party here, they will kill themselves. All those ones are what we call unknown stakeholders. So with that, we have simplified what we call stakeholders, types of stakeholders. So more importantly now, let's move at a faster rate a bit by looking at stakeholders mapping. Because if we discuss on stakeholders and we have not mentioned stakeholders mapping, then we are not true unless we want to do it some other time, or probably unless it escape our mind. And that is detrimental. It's a suicidal attempt. Because if I can now bring stakeholders mapping in exam, what excuse did I have as a facilitator? So stakeholders mapping is very, very essential, and it comes out in exam very well. When they set it, after some diet, I can reset it again. So they can call it stakeholders mapping or stakeholders matrix. Originally, the founder of this theory used that two words simultaneously. He called it stakeholders mapping. But when he's giving us an alternative name, that's the reason why you see they are penciling it in blue, sky blue, 2x2 matrix. He now use the word 2x2 matrix. Okay, let me quickly do justice to this. Just like A for ample, we are in the right place. Equity professional. We simplify everything for you. So the stakeholders mapping was popularly developed by a scholar that we call Mendello. Mendello. Mendellow. It's okay. And we want to put in inverted comma X to make it singular so that we can credit it to that man. Mendello was the one that developed the stakeholders mapping. And this stakeholders mapping was developed to assist the directors of the company, to assist the CEO of the company, the managers, for them to know that in any organization where they work, we have different categories of stakeholders. And Mendello stated that these stakeholders, their needs are not the same. They are born by different parents. Their expectations, their attitude, perceptions towards issue, they are quite different. As a result of that, it is expected of management to identify them and design effective ways of managing their diverse attitude and behavior so that they will not cause disorganization in the company, so that the company will experience industrial harmony. The stakeholders mapping is also called 2x2 stakeholders matrix. Is that understood? So in the exam condition, listen and listen attentively. We have to pay priority to the number one that you are seeing here. because Mendelo discussed on two aspects of stakeholders mapping. Number one is stakeholders power and interest matrix. That is what I can set in exam, and that is what you are expecting. Even at the foundation level, they said we should discuss this topic on a lighter mood, emphasizing on stakeholders power and interest matrix. And from time immemorial, from decades now, anytime ICAN has been setting questions, even of recent that the question came out on this, it is still this number one, stakeholders power and interest matrix that they discussed about. But because of our own vast knowledge about literatures and on this topic, we discovered that Mendelo actually categorized stakeholders mapping into two. That is stakeholders power and interest matrix and stakeholders position and importance matrix. But I told you, I can always set question on number one. And we never can know. Maybe this side they can just mention it, but it has been stated categorically in the syllabus that you should know the stakeholders power and interest matrix. This about question is coming this side, that it should be that number one. And no knowledge is wasted. And the very reason why I put that stakeholders position and importance matrix. So it won't be strange to you when you are saying it again. So the stakeholders power and interest matrix inform us that all the groups of stakeholders that we have, be it voluntary or involuntary, legitimate or illegitimate, primary or secondary, internal or external, that we are seeing, known and unknown, narrow or wide, majority of them, they have varying degree, different level of power and interest in the organization. The higher their level of power and interest, the more recognition the directors and the management should give them, so that they will not cause internal crisis and tension. Their expectations should be met. Those people that have low level of power, low level of interest, that does not mean that we have to neglect them or their expectations should not be met. We have to ensure that the expectation is met too. We have to get closer to them to make them to be more feel important, recognized, and relevant in the system. So according to Mendelo, the stakeholders power and interest matrix tells management of the need to effectively manage different types of stakeholders that we have in the organization, irrespective of their power and interest. To cut it short, the stakeholder power and interest matrix can be divided into four main types under the stakeholders power and interest matrix. We have four classes of stakeholders with different level of power and interest in the organization. The first one is one, minimum effort stakeholders. Minimum effort stakeholders. The second one is keep informed stakeholders. The third one, keep satisfied stakeholders. While the last one is keep players stakeholders. Those are just the four categories of stakeholders he highlighted. So that four categories of stakeholders, we have to know that the most strongest among them is number four, the key player stakeholders. They have high level of power and interest in the organization. And as a result of that, they are the most powerful. They have HH, high power, high interest. Followed by number three, keep satisfied, that have low power, high interest. Keep informed, two, that ones have low. But the minimum effort is the lowest. Their level of power is low, and their level of interest in the organization is low too. Keep informed, they have low power, high interest. Keep satisfied, that one have high power, low interest. But the key players, which is the major one, we have to ensure we manage them effectively, because they can use all other forms of stakeholders against the management to ensure that expectations and demands are met. And that's the essence of this Mendeley stakeholders mapping. And you can see here the stakeholders with the highest amount of power and interest are the key players whose influence will be of some significance in making strategic decisions. People like Femi Otedola in First Bank now is a key player. Is that understood? All the majority shareholders, board of directors are key players in the organization, and we must ensure that we recognize them. So people with high interest or low power in the organization, they too, they have to be given due recognition. Even if they have low interest, low power, we have to give them due recognition to ensure that we make them to be satisfied, so that nobody can use them against the management. To keep them abreast of the development in the organization, let their dividends be paid as at when due, let the company to be competitive. So this one will help us in effective governance in the organization. Is that understood? So the second one that I said I can't have not been setting, they don't set it, is stakeholders' position and importance. Stakeholders' position and importance. In the stakeholders' position and importance, this one to inform us that in an organization, the top management, middle level managers, and what have you, the CEO, board of directors, and all the shareholders must know that we have four categories of stakeholders that can pose challenges to the organization if they are not recognized or well managed. So, under the position and importance, we have four categories of stakeholders. The first one is problematic stakeholders. You can hear that name. They are always problematic. They pose one problem or the other. Problematic stakeholders. The second one, antagonistic stakeholders. The third one, low priority stakeholders. And the last one, supportive stakeholders. So when you look at the first one, problematic and antagonistic stakeholder, we have to give special preference to them because they always antagonize, go against the company policy. They are not on the side of the company policy. Though their expectations, their complaints at times might be legit. So they are difficult to just bypass. They can have meeting before meeting. So these categories of stakeholders, we have to ensure that they are well managed, they are well kept informed, and their expectation is met. That's the only way we can have industrial harmony. The third one that we have here, low priority. The low priority here is the same thing as minimum effort stakeholders under the power and interest. They don't low priority, they don't have any crisis. Once the company is doing well, they are getting their dividends as at when due. If their employees, if their salary is going on, nobody victimize them, they are promoted as at when due, then they are okay. That's what we call low priority. They're always there to support the government. So under the position and importance, the supporting stakeholders are always on the side of the government, on the side of the company. They always support the management. So they make immense contribution towards ensuring effective governance and achievement of the shareholders' objective. They make pivotal effort to ensure going concern, continuity in the company. That is what we call supportive stakeholders. And they don't antagonize the company in any way. So once we have done this, we have been able to discuss on what we call stakeholders mapping that was put forward by Mendeley. So the demands and claims of the stakeholders, have explained this one at the onset of the lecture, that the demands and claims of the stakeholders is the same thing as expectation of the stakeholders. Don't mind the title. Demands or claims of the stakeholders. I told you that the stakeholders' expectations are different. There are many. So stakeholders' expectation is the same thing as demand or claims. For instance, now we have the shareholders' expectation. What are the shareholders' wants, claims, or expectation? They want dividends, high share price. They want low staff turnover. They don't want companies to experience a situation whereby staff will be leaving that place. They want innovation. The shareholders want good reputation for the company, innovativeness. They want the company to be competitive. That's what we call shareholders claim or demand. The director claims, we have discussed on this. The director claims they want uh, independent judgment. They want high pay. They want performance reward incentives. And some of them too, they have that desire to be part of the shareholders in future. Those are the directors. So they want official car and many more. These are some of the indirect stakeholders. The indirect stakeholders cannot influence the company, and some of them too, they have vested interest in the performance of the company. They want the company to do very well. A good example of indirect stakeholders, something like customers, including our lenders that borrow the company money for their operational activities. But if the company is not doing very well, or the company is tending towards declining or distress, there's no way you can pay the bank their money back. So indirect stakeholders want the best for the company, including the government, so that I can be able to pay your tax as at when due. So the external stakeholders we have here, I only expatiate is for further explanation for you to know. Our employees here, our employees, they are part of our internal stakeholders. Employee can be regarded as internal stakeholders, primary stakeholders, voluntary stakeholders, legitimate stakeholders, and at the same time, we can refer to them as voluntary stakeholders or non-stakeholders. So external stakeholders that we have here, we have discussed this in case uh, you are just joining or it's escape your mind. Know that the external stakeholders, they have limited or no influence on the company. They are the categories of stakeholders that are wide to the company. They are not involved in the governance and activities of the company, but they have vested interest in the performance of the company. Example of external stakeholders are lenders. Those are the financial institutions, suppliers, regulators. It can be CBN, agency, or government. Those are the people that we call regulators. It can be SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. The government too, they are regulator in terms of business regulation, tax, and many more. So the customers are part of our external stakeholders. The stock exchange, they are part of our external stakeholders too. So with that, we are done with stakeholders analysis. Uh, I'm going to give you the drawing of the stakeholders analysis next class. I'll just paste it, or I'll paste it. Let me paste it on the platform. The stakeholders analysis diagram that cover the power and interest. It's just a 2 by 2 rectangular like this divided into two. We put their name. We have high, low, low, high. That is all. So in case it is required in exam and for us to know it, so that we'll be well equipped for the exam. So thank you very much for listening. Permits me to put the lecture to an end now and make provision for the physical class. And I hope the topic we treated today is understood. God willing, before our exam proper, probably before we do our mock exam, we are still going to revisit some of this topic in form of revision to do a general and holistic revisions on all these topics that we have treated. So we just started, and I pray God will give us a spirit of knowledge, wisdom, and retentive memory. God bless you all. Thank you. Is there any question, please?
Yeah, I dropped a message on the chat.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Any other response? Okay. In view of no other question or response, so enjoy the rest of your day and other lectures. All the best.